Alrighty, this is pork ragu with a kitchen winch. A perfect meal for all your date night needs. Of course, it's for free here and on my blog, but you can also join my Patreon and get print and e-version recipe cards for $5 a month. Now, if you guys remember my coq au vin recipe, this one is kind of similar in the magical functions, but it is much different in the actual preparation. The prep is important though, so get all of your mirepoix ingredients cut up, which is just celery, carrot, and onion. Usually I don't like to use different bowls to set all my ingredients aside, but this is one of those cases where it's definitely going to be helpful if you do that. And I mean, it's just vegetables, so you can always just reuse the bowl later for your actual meal. Meal prep does not have to include 1,002 dishes. And now here's also a point where we can say that laziness differs for everybody, because to me, it is a much more annoying to clean a garlic press than it is to just chop all this garlic by hand. That's why you'll always see me doing it. But set it aside in another little bowl that you can just rinse out later. And now it's time to get started cutting up all of that pork. This is a lot of pork. This is about like 3 to 4 pounds, but honestly, it was pretty cheap for it. I think it was like $8 for all of this pork. Beef is easily twice the price. However, if you do want to use beef instead, you can. It's just, again, a little bit more expensive. But trim as much of the fat as possible just so you don't have more than necessary in your ragu, and get cutting it into these really nice, good cubes. You don't want to just plop the whole thing in there to brown it, because then the middle is going to get dry while the outside just kind of barely has a sear. And it's also not going to be able to absorb as much of the sauce when you cook it in there later too. This also reduces the cook time of actually searing it by quite a bit. But did you know that now where the pig kind of represents like laziness and gluttony, it didn't really used to be that way? It was actually once a symbol of power and courage, because the wild boar, the pig's ancestor, is very much a territorial thing that will charge literally any animal that it sees. It is a valiant little guy, and it still very much has that association in magic. So season your pork, heat up a pan with olive oil, and get all that meat in there to brown. Once it's brown, you're just going to take it out and set it aside. You don't want to cook it all the way through. It's going to cook later in the sauce. So then after that, just fry up your garlic, and if you like a little bit of spice like me, fry up some crushed red pepper with it too. And once it's fragrant, it's time to add in all of those vegetables you chopped up. These are going to release a lot of steam, so that's why I put the garlic in first so that it wouldn't get watered down. But after a while, they will have released all their water, which is good because it'll have soaked up the fond on the bottom, and it'll give you the time also to get some salt and pepper on it. Once enough of the water is gone though, it's time to add our tomato paste. You know, usually people kind of just add this in and add everything else, but if you toast it a little bit first, it does add an extra depth of flavor that's really nice to the dish. Tomato being bright red and a nightshade, and also associated with Venus and water, makes it excellent for love spells of any kind. Add to that some red wine, which grapes is all associated with moon and water as well, and you have quite the party going on already. But add in your crushed tomato as well as some water from the can, and then get witchy with all of your herbs and seasonings. There is a lot of magical potential depending on which herbs you invoke, but for me the thyme is a great one to go with the tomato, and a little allspice will brighten up the flavor a bit too. But once you have all those things combined, it is time to add all of your pork back to the pot as well as any juices that have accumulated in the bowl. This is the part where the meal becomes completely hands-off and gives you time to fix up your kitchen a little bit. What you're going to do is get this to a little bit of a boil and then simmer it on low for 2 whole hours. Seriously, clean your kitchen, hang out, pour a glass of wine, do whatever you want. After 2 hours though, you're going to want to take all of that pork back out of the pot. Look at it bubbling away like a little bit of magma. And notice also the pot of water boiling, that's because we want that for our pasta. But as I said, take all that pork out and get ready to basically make an Italian pulled pork. It's going to take you a little bit, so that's why I said just start your water now, but you're going to pull all of this apart with 2 forks until it is fully shredded, and then you're just going to add it right back to your pot. This is going to help it soak up all the extra flavor from the sauce itself. And I mean, look at that. This is what I mean when I say Italian pulled pork. But now it's up to you. Any kind of pasta you want to use, go for it. I'm using fettuccine because I couldn't find pappardelle, but honestly, it works all the same. Just dump it on in there and make sure you stir it up a little bit so it doesn't stick together or, get clumped up. And cook it until it's about al dente. The package directions should tell you that, but otherwise, you just gotta taste test it. Pull the pasta out, drain it, and now it's just up to plating. Get some pasta in there, and oh boy, I am very not romantic with just dumping the spaghetti straight into the bowl like that, but that's okay, it's gonna look pretty later. So just get some sauce on top of that, and then congratulations. All of that work pays off with a beautiful bowl of pork ragu. If you're feeling up for it, you can dust it with some Parmesan cheese too, hopefully something a little bit nicer than Walmart brand like I had, but it's what I had. And voila, a perfect date night meal. For really not any more effort than any other one-pot meal would take, honestly. So if you've got a date night coming up this week, enjoy. And remember to check out all my other videos and my other recipes. And as we say in Slovenian, se vidimo.